Now, let's combine that knowledge with this, the exchange value of the dollar. All right, here's the value of the dollar against a basket of currencies, weighted according to their importance in international trade. And so you can see that 1973 equals 100, and that sometimes the dollar has increased in value, and sometimes the dollar has fallen in value. So let's look at it. Coming out of World War II, when the United States was up here and everyone else was down there, all the nations agreed that they would peg their currencies to the dollar. And there would be a system of fixed exchange rates. So there'd be no variation in exchange rate. So if this chart was to go back to 1945, it would be practically a straight line across like that. You know, there'd be no variation. This was called the Bretton Woods Agreement, B-R-E-T-T-O-N, Woods, because that's where this agreement had been negotiated and made in 1944, near the end of World War II. Now, in order to make that work, a number of things had to happen. And all of them together meant that after World War II, we flooded the world with dollars, which was extremely important for the rest of the world's recovery, because it's hard to imagine how much the rest of the world was debilitated by World War II and how much the war strengthened us and debilitated everyone else. And so for the rest of the world to recover, they had to buy food and fuel and equipment and stocks of goods, inventories, and the only place to get anything was here. So the problem was for them, if they started to buy stuff from us, the only way you can buy stuff from us, as I said before, is first you have to buy the dollar, and there'd be a tendency, therefore, if they started selling their currencies to buy the dollar, that their currencies would go down and our currency would go up, right? And so their currencies would depreciate terribly and our currency, the dollar, would appreciate. But you might say, but Mike, you just said we agreed that the rates would be fixed and there'd be no appreciation, no depreciation. How did it all happen? It happened because we flooded the world with dollars and made it easy for them to get dollars. In other words, what we did was this. First of all, we gave out a huge amount of foreign aid, the Marshall Plan. In other words, we just gave them dollars to buy our goods. We didn't even say you have to buy our goods, because there was only one place to buy them. If you wanted a bulldozer, you had to come to the United States. There was no other place to buy a bulldozer. So we flooded the world with dollars with foreign aid. And then we flooded the world with dollars when we established military bases overseas. And then we flooded the world with dollars when American firms started to invest overseas. And then we flooded the world with dollars when Americans started to travel overseas, right? So it was a huge outflow of dollars. Some of it we were investment by the United States and the rest of the world. Some of it just gifts. Some of it tourism. Some of it military bases. And that gave the rest of the world all the funds they needed to turn around and buy our stuff without them having to sell their currencies in a reluctant market and drive the value down. In other words, we were more than happy to buy their money in order to invest over there and give them money and so on. Does everybody understand? And that lasted until about 1973. And by that time, Europe had recovered and Japan had recovered and everything was fine. And the problem was we were still giving out foreign aid, still making foreign investments, still traveling overseas, still maintaining military bases, and they didn't want our goods much anymore. And so the result was the dollar couldn't remain at a fixed value, and it fell. Now, what kind of monetary policy did the Federal Reserve pursue in the early 1980s, did we say? Remember, what did the high interest rates? And as soon as the Federal Reserve started to pursue a very high interest rate policy, the United States all of a sudden became a very attractive place to invest because our interest rates were higher than anyone else's. So all of a sudden, the rest of the world starts to buy dollars to take advantage of the high interest rates here. And what happens? The dollar starts to go up and down. And even when our interest rates were no longer higher than anywhere else, the United States became a good place to invest because the stock market went up. So the money kept on coming over here. And even President Reagan's election helped, because people figured, well, this was a safe place to store your capital. There wasn't going to be any socialism here. And so the money kept on flowing over. Does everybody get it?